Every single season, we are faced with tough draft day decisions. So in 2019, when you are on the clock, what are you going to do? You going to play it safe or risk it for the biscuit? Hit that like button because I've got one guy for you that's going to be more like headed out to the Vegas Strip for a night out with your boys. You just don't know what you're coming back with. Hey, what's going on, Headliner Nation? Kyle coming to you from the Draft.com studios with another episode of the Fantasy Headliners. And we're going to be talking about some tough draft day decisions. One guy in particular that is going to be very risky but could offer a ton of upside in 2019. Before we get into that, though, I need to take a moment to remind you that purchasing the 2019 Fantasy Headliners Draft Guide would be one of the best decisions that you make this year. There you have it, only $19.99 at thefantasyheadliners.com. Make sure you get yours right away. But let's get moving. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you're not already a part of Headliner Nation. And if you're joining Headliner Nation right now, let me know in the comments below so I can personally welcome you to this awesome community. The individual that we're going to be talking about in this episode, running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars, it's going to be Leonard Fournette. And we're going to talk a little bit about why he is an absolute risk factor this year. But if we can look past some of this risk, he might be one of the best draft day decisions that you make this year. And let's talk about it right now. Leonard Fournette, a couple of stats. These two really go together to begin with. In 2018, he was the fifth quickest in the NFL in terms of time behind the line of scrimmage and 10th in the NFL in terms of rushing efficiency at 4.44. Now, let me tell you why these two stats are important. What these two stats will tell you is that he is a north-south runner behind the line of scrimmage. He is going to get into the box. He's going to get through the line of scrimmage. He's going to get the ball and move quickly. He's not going to dance around a whole lot. He's not going to take a ton of time behind the line of scrimmage. I know you look at a guy like Le'Veon Bell, you hand the ball off to him. He's really slow to find his hole, which is fine because he has great vision, but once he hits it, he's gone. Leonard Fournette, he's going to get to that hole. He's going to get to the hole quickly, and he's going to get through the line of scrimmage, and he's going to start picking up positive yards as quickly as possible. So these two stats, again, what they are telling me is this is a guy that is hitting a hole quickly, and he's finding a hole. The problem is, though, now his yards per carry in 2018 were not great. And the reason for that was he faced a stacked box 35.34% of the time. That was the third most in the NFL. And that's one that we want to key on in particular, and that has to do a lot with the passing game, and we're going to talk more about the passing game here in just a moment. But let's talk about a little bit more in terms of why Leonard Fournette is going to offer us a ton of upside this year. The reason that we also need to keep an eye on him in the passing game is because TJ Yeldon is now gone. He's someone else's problem. He's Devin Singletary's problem, LaShawn McCoy's problem. He's Frank Gore's problem. Let those four try to figure out what's going on there in Buffalo. The one thing that we know right now in Jacksonville is that Leonard Fournette is the guy. They have Alfred Blue. They have Raquel Armstead. I like Armstead. I think he could be the next guy in line behind Fournette. But as long as Fournette is healthy, that's a big if, I know, but as long as Fournette is healthy, he is going to get the opportunity to get all of the workload that he can possibly handle. Last year, TJ Yeldon saw 78 targets, 55 receptions, 487 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Leonard Fournette has run for 1,000 yards already in his NFL career. He's done it once. Last year, he did not, but again, he battled a suspension, injuries, and things like that. In terms of the passing game, his first 2 years in the league, Fournette has averaged an 8.4 yards per reception. So he can make an impact on the ground. He can make an impact in the passing game. He can do both of those things. But what's even more different this year than last year? It's the passing game. Now, let's talk about that here a little bit. Obviously, Nick Foles is the new guy in town. Do we trust him after leading one Cinderella story for the Eagles and almost another one, helping them out there in Philadelphia? What can he do now for Jacksonville? Well, last season, Jacksonville, the quarterbacks, it was a mess. They were given an average of 2.84 seconds to throw in 2018. That was the ninth most in the NFL. That was the ninth most time, or the ninth longest time. My bad. So that was the ninth longest time in the NFL. So they had plenty of time to find open receivers and do what they needed to do. But they had a rating of 78.6. That was fifth worst. So the offensive line was doing what they were supposed to. Were the wide receivers doing what they were supposed to? I mean, you've got guys like Keelan Cole and DJ Shark. You've got D.D. Westbrook and Marquise Lee. You've got viable fantasy options. I don't believe DJ Shark is going to be a guy that is going to be a big-time receiver. He's a purely stretch the field kind of guy, but that's great news. That is great news for Leonard Fournette and the run game, because Cole and Shark, if they can play on the outside, D.D. Westbrook is going to play in the slot, Marquise Lee is going to move in between some different areas. Those two guys can really stretch the field. If they can do that, pull defenders down the field from them, and then what we need to do with Leonard Fournette, then that leaves a lot of room underneath and for intermediate routes for Leonard Fournette to work. So there's going to be plenty of options if Nick Foles can do what he needs to do. If he can he just needs to be more efficient. He doesn't need to come in and be Patrick Mahomes. He doesn't need to come in and be what Ben Roethlisberger was last year. He doesn't need to be Andrew Luck. He just needs to be decent. If he can be decent, teams are going to have to key in on that passing game way more than they did last season. And that stacked box percentage that we saw a moment ago, that's going to go down. And that's going to give Leonard Fournette the opportunity to run for more yards per carry. And if he can stay healthy all season long, then he's going to have an opportunity to also put up a ton of volume to go with that efficiency. But I mentioned the injury concerns, right? There's going to be injury concerns with Leonard Fournette probably through his entire career, because he hasn't played a full season since 2014. That was the last time that Leonard Fournette participated in every game for his team that season. That was his freshman year in college. He only has 1 year left on his contract after this season as well, and it's only worth $4 million in dead cap. There was talk this offseason that Leonard Fournette could be traded. He could be released. There was talk of pulling bonuses from him. There was a lot of different issues, especially last season after he was suspended for that fight on the field. There was just a lot of emotions, a lot of things that boiled over with Jacksonville last year. I don't want to blame everything on Leonard Fournette, because the team as a whole was a mess. It was supposed to be one of the best teams in the NFL, and they didn't play like that. But let's remember back to 2017. Leonard Fournette finished as the running back 8 in half PPR leagues. He's currently being drafted as a running back 16. So, again, as I mentioned, right? We're talking about Leonard Fournette here, and he comes with all sorts of risk. On draft day, when you're on the clock, you're going to be scared to take him. The reason that I ended up doing this video is because actually in one of our last videos, one of our viewers said, "Hey, Kyle, can you talk about any guys that you're probably staying away from this year, but still could offer a lot of value?" And this is one of those guys. If you know what the Scott Fish Bowl is, I'm participating in the Scott Fish Bowl right now. So is Jake. So is Chris. We've got a lot of guys from the website. So is Ryan. We've got a lot of guys from the website that are participating in that. And I took Leonard Fournette. I ended up taking him in the in the third round, because of the potential upside he has. He's risky. He might only play 14 games this year. He's probably not going to play all 16 games. You're probably going to have to either look at handcuffing him or having enough running back depth that if you do lose him for a couple of weeks or maybe longer, you can take care of that. But when he is on the field this year, if he's on the field and he's healthy when he's on the field, this is going to be a guy that is a top 10 potential running back because of all the volume that he could get on the ground and through the air. Jacksonville can just beat him up at this point if they want to. They don't have to have him around for much longer. Even if they keep him for next year, that's still the last year of his deal. I highly doubt they pick up his fifth-year option because he was a top 5 pick. That's going to be an insane amount of money that they have to pay him, especially with all of his injury concerns. So they're going to use him this season. And then at the end of the season, they want to walk away. It's only going to cost them $4 million to cut him. So when you're drafting this fantasy football season, if you're looking for a lot of upside and you're willing to take on some of that risk, then Leonard Fournette is a guy that I encourage you to take a look at. If you want to play it safe, though, then you're going to want to stay away from Leonard Fournette because his time on the field has shown us that he's going to be hampered with injuries and that he might not make it on the field in some weeks. And then obviously last season, a little bit of a temper. But again, what are you going to do? You going to play it safe or risk it for the biscuit? Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of the Fantasy Headliners. Make sure you hit that like button. Most importantly, hit that subscribe button. Become a part of Headliner Nation today. And then obviously leave us comments below. One of the most interactive channels here on YouTube. We'll get back to you with any questions you might have. Get your Fantasy Headliners draft guide for only $19.99. And I'm going to catch you on the next episode. Have a great one, everyone.